Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Our current session focuses on language in North and South Korea. I hope and expect by the end of this session, you would not only have some insights into the language use and usage in North and South Korea, but also you would be able to understand how and why it is important in sociolinguistics to study different languages being used in different parts of the world and in different societies and nations. Well, my dear students, at the outset of the session, it is important for you to understand where is North and South Korea and which language is used there. Well, Korean is the language that is used in North and South Korea. This is actually the language of the Korean Peninsula in Northeast Asia. In fact, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, that is sometimes abbreviated as DPRK or North Korea, it has 20 million speakers. In the same way, because Korea is divided into North and, the South part. So like the North part, in the South part, that is Republic of Korea, it is abbreviated sometimes as ROK as well, or sometimes South Korea, it has 42 million speakers. So, the language is also spoken by almost 2 million people in China, provinces bordering North Korea. So, the language picture that we are going to look at is of North Korea and of South Korea, and then the language as it is being used by different Chinese provinces that are bordering, North Korea. It is very interesting for us to know that there are no language minorities in North or South Korea. Traditionally, the region has been monolingual in the sense that only one language has been used over the centuries. It is actually one of the few, I would say, monolingual states in the world. And that is why I think I have chosen this as a topic for the session, because this would give you an understanding of how, in the studies of sociolinguistics, the study of certain regions from different perspectives adds to insights. Anyways, there are two standard varieties that are used here, and if you look at the screen, you can see the names. The first variety is of Seoul, that is written as this. This is a dialect in South Korea, whereas when it comes to North Korea, the dialect that is used is P&Yangyen. This is the name of the dialect that is used. Now, these dialects are distinguished and regulated by each country's national language policy. North Korea has its own language policy and South Korea has its own language policy. And I hope and expect that you already know that language policy and planning is carried out by the governments, by the states, in order to create certain national identities. Well, my dear students, on the screen for your interest, you can see the flags of North Korea and South Korea. These states have their independent, sovereign states, sovereign policies, and, this identity is reflected in their languages as well, which are different. Well, my dear students, when it comes to the writing system of Korean language, if you look at the screen, you can see it is called Hangul. It has 24 basic symbols in it, which are combined to create different words. And all of these symbols that are used, they actually are the representations of different sounds that we find in the Korean language. Well, the words of Chinese, these words that are used in this language, they are of Chinese origin. They are traditionally written with Chinese characters, and if you look at the screen, you can see the name Hanja instead of being called out in Hangul. So, the words that come from Chinese, for them, there is a separate name. This practice was in fact discouraged in North Korea, but it is still common in South Korean writing style. Hangul is generally written horizontally, this way, not this way. It is written horizontally from left to right as we write, for example, English language. Although it has been written earlier times like Chinese, that was vertically, that would be written this way. In fact, in the 15th century, King Sejong of Yi dynasty commissioned the development of the phonetically based script of Korean language. Until that time, Korean had been written in Hanja script, that is the Chinese script. Well, my dear students, literacy at that time was restricted to a very small number of educated elite class. They now opposed the new script. Why they opposed the new script? Because that meant spread of literacy, that meant spread of education, that could have been, of course, a challenge to their elitedom. Hangul did not manage to displace the Chinese script among the educated elite until the nationalistic democratization movement at the end of the 19th century. So, there was a lot of resistance to the new script. The educated elite class was against it because it was more like a challenge to their authority into that. And it took a long time until, finally, through the nationalistic democratization, movement, it finally got its recognition. This movement also led to the printing of the first Hangul newspaper in 1894, and soon after, different books were published, and government documents were also, started getting published in this language. So this was a huge change that occurred. The modern effort to establish Hangul as the writing system of the Korean language was ended in 1910 by Japan, which formally annexed the peninsula as a colony of its empire. So, again, there was a break, again, there was a stop to this process when Japan took over. Through this process of colonization that Japan did, the official language of, again, this area became Japanese. Now again, it is a political issue, and Korean language was suppressed by law, and Japanese was promoted. Japanese language was taught in the institutions, in the schools, to children. In fact, it was in 1940 that people were forced to use Japanese surnames for their, as a part of their names. 1945 Japanese occupation ended, and there was a re-establishment of the Korean sovereignty. And after that, the division of the country is, that each nation, the Northern Korea and Southern Korea, they have their own language policies from there onwards. So in North Korea, Hangul was adopted as the sole system of writing Korean. Chinese characters are never used, and they are replaced with the phonetic equivalents in the local language. On the other hand, when we look at the situation in South Korea, the abolition of Chinese characters from written Korean has been attempted with a lot of efforts by the government and the support of the government, but it has still, maintained itself. Both countries have introduced campaigns to discontinue the use of any words of foreign origin in their everyday speech, especially the words of Chinese origin. So this is a huge issue, that relates to the language planning and policy and language practices in these areas. And in fact, they both the states, they encourage the use of the words of Korean origin.